Welcome to I Drink Your Podcast, where we drink and talk about movies from 2007.
The fourth dimension will collapse upon itself, you stupid bitch.
Shut up, I'm a man and I know what's good for me.
Bountiful penis. Amen.
Boy, my ass is sore.
You can get pink eye from farting in a pillow?
Yeah, but you gotta be bare-assed.
I'm gonna invent a toothbrush for your butthole.
It does the trick.
Paddington Bear.
He's a homewrecker?
Yeah, he wrecks homes.
You are a murderer of love.
I drink your podcast. I drink it up.
Welcome back to another episode of I Drink Your Podcast. With me today is Emily.
Hello, everyone.
And Dylan, our good friend. Hey, Dylan.
Hey, y'all. How you doing out there?
Dylan's been asking to come on for a while to do this movie, Zodiac. So we just brought him back. We've got just a couple movies left in our 2007 run before we wrap this thing up and move on to hopefully brighter pastures.
I mean, we're ending kind of strong. I will say that.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
We haven't had a bad movie in a while.
Well, I mean, I didn't really like Michael Clayton at all.
Yeah, but it wasn't bad. It's not
True.
like epic movie.
It was mediocre.
Yeah. So this week we did watch Zodiac, which is available on Netflix here in America. So check it out if you have not seen it. I think you're probably going to get a recommendation from at least one of us on the podcast today. So we'll see where we go with that. But before we get started, Dylan, what's in your glass?
Well, again, since we're recording quite early in the morning and today is my daughter's last swimming lessons, I'm drinking my key lime LaCroix and also some limoncello LaCroix. But I promise that I will be drinking tonight a bottle of strawberry Moscato made by Barefoot, which is made in the great state of California. Where our movie takes place. So, and also I would say it's matches up with Jake Gyllenhaal's line, "You wouldn't make fun of it if you tried it," because it's really tasty.
I think I would, though, still.
That's fine.
It's like a $4 bottle of wine. Like, I'm going to make fun of you. Emily?
I am drinking the virgin version of the Aquavelva. Speaking of what Dylan is referencing with Jake Gyllenhaal's character, it's just watered down Gatorade because it is 9 a.m. and it is definitely not time for some alcohol for me. But Ben, you decided to go full on Aquavelva, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, I mean, my grandpa used to say, if I'm awake, I'm drinking. So I'm kind of going in line with that. He was a man of the 60s. That was when he had like his heyday after Korea. So I'm doing the Aquavelva, and I've got the vodka, the gin, and the blue curacao in it with a little bit of lemon lime soda. So it's quite tasty. Jake Gyllenhaal knew what he was talking about.
Except it was really Robert Graysmith. Thanks, Robert Graysmith.
Interchangeable, I will argue, in this movie.
Interchangeable. Okay, well, they're both two real people. So, well, if we make them interchangeable, that's going to be a little confusing.
You don't
for
know
me, at
Jake
least.
Gyllenhaal's drinking habits.
Okay, maybe. Fine. I'll just shut up now.
He's the bubble boy. I guarantee he drinks these
Oh my
things.
God. Speaking of that, now because I've seen that, it's so funny to me that Lee Allen plays his dad in Bubble Boy. Oh, it's so funny.
Isn't that cute?
So funny. It's so cute.
Dylan, welcome back. Glad to have you. What is something you've been watching recently that you think is worth our time?
All right. Well, this was something that was hard for me to think of, but and I am not going with what I originally wrote down, but I'm going to go with a different David Fincher joint that mixes very well with today's episode.
I swear to God, if you say Curious Case of Benjamin Button, we're stopping the podcast.
No.
Thank God.
No. I am going with the Netflix series Mindhunter.
Yes.
Oh, that's a really good one.
Any of you have watched that show, if you have not seen it, it is fantastic. If you are a fan of true crime or anything related to serial killers, this show is amazingly well done. It's actually not even based off like a biography or anything. It's based off the book that was written by the FBI on serial killers. Like, what they did was, it's about these two men going across the country, taking profiles of mass murderers and finding out why they did what they did. Because at this time, at the time of the show, which is like the late 60s, early 70s, they were dealing with the huge problem of like Manson and other horrible murders that were happening in that time period. And so this was them getting all that information put together to finally put together a unit in the FBI to specifically take on this. So
Yeah, I've only seen a few episodes, but it was really interesting, and I love like how they set it up. So I definitely want to go back to it. I'm glad to know it's worth it.
I'll say it's a little slow moving sometimes, and it's pretty dark given the content of what it's about. But really good information, and actually, I have heard that they are going to be doing a third season. It kind of went away after the pandemic, but my mom is an avid watcher, and she was online going, "Yay, they got a third season!"
It's really like a companion series for Zodiac. It even has a similar look to it. And if you liked the slower pace of Zodiac, you'll probably enjoy the slow pace of Mindhunter because they are very similar.
I would almost venture, was this idea popped into Fincher's head while he was making Zodiac? If this was something where he was like, ooh, we should go into something a little deeper, but we can't with this movie.
Does he produce it or something?
Yeah.
I think he directed the first episode too.
He
Cool.
did, yeah. So, Mindhunter.
Yeah, check it out.
Check it out.
On Netflix.
Yes.
Well, we did watch Zodiac this week, and Zodiac was nominated for 0 Oscars. Unbelievable. But we'll get into that.
Mhm.
Directed by David Fincher, known for music videos and commercials until his first movie, Seven, came out. He also directed The Game, Fight Club, and Panic Room prior to Zodiac coming out.
Hey, I actually hate to correct you, but his first directorial movie was Alien 3.
You're right.
Believe it or not.
Yeah, I completely skipped
Alien
over
3
that
was
one.
his first movie.
Yep.
Well, it's worthy because David Fincher has completely disowned that movie because 20th Century Fox kept changing the script, wouldn't let his edit be released, and it made him very mad to the point where he's like, I don't even want to acknowledge this movie anymore.
Then is it really a Fincher movie? Like, if the studio took complete control out of him, like, he shot it, sure, but it's not his movie then. Like, I'm not saying that I was right when I first spoke, but...
Well, it's not like he's Alan Smithied it.
Sure.
Type of thing, where he wanted his name completely. But, like, he doesn't talk about it in interviews or, he just doesn't really want to talk about it. And when, like, 20th Century Fox was putting together box sets and everything for the Alien series for Prometheus and whatnot, they did a lot of director's cuts of the original movies, and they got all of the original directors except for Fincher to come in and do it. So he just doesn't want to talk about it because it was a negative experience. I think that's the big thing, is it was just a really negative experience.
Yeah, that makes sense. And Fincher did go on to direct after this some very big movies, especially the 2010s, which we will cover in our future of this podcast. But right after this movie, he made A Curious Case of Benjamin Button, which is Wesley's favorite movie of all time.
Oh, shut up.
He loves that movie.
He hates you.
Okay, so this movie stars Jake Gyllenhaal as Robert Graysmith, who is a political cartoonist and the author of the book on which this movie was based. We did talk about, prior to this, Jake Gyllenhaal was more known for smaller roles and kind of more of a comedic actor at this point. Like, he did Bubble Boy, Donnie Darko, which had a little bit of darkness to it, but it was also kind of a comedic movie. And then you also have Day After Tomorrow, which is pure comedy from start to finish.
What?
Day After Tomorrow is the biggest scientific joke of a movie I've ever seen.
Oh, I was thinking Edge of Tomorrow for some reason. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about?
Day After Tomorrow is the one where global warming literally chases them through the streets of New York City.
That's fucking stupid.
Yep. And then he was nominated for an Oscar prior to this for Brokeback Mountain. We also had Mark Ruffalo playing David Toschi, who was the lead investigator of the Zodiac case. At this point, he was mainly known for smaller roles in rom-coms like 13 Going on 30, or Just Like Heaven, or another one of Wesley's favorite movies, which is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
But that's like actually one of his favorites. So
Next up, we had Robert Downey Jr. playing Paul Avery, who was a newspaper writer and target of the Zodiac Killer. He was an 80s star in movies like Less Than Zero and Weird Science, and he's a former SNL cast member. This is kind of Robert Downey Jr.'s beginning of his upswing because he had kind of fallen from grace at this point in Hollywood due to his drug habits. So this is him slowly returning to prominence, with next year him starring in Iron Man. Last actor I want to call out is Anthony Edwards, who plays William Armstrong, which is Mark Ruffalo's partner. He starred in Revenge of the Nerds and was Dr. Green on ER for many years. So famous TV actor at this point.
I would say this movie is filled with a fantastic main cast and a lot of great character actors that are in this movie.
Yeah, you could probably go 15 deep in this movie of actors that are good or have roles that you recognize them from and are like, yeah, I really respect you for that role that you were in. But Emily had not seen Zodiac before.
nope.
Oh,
So Emily, last week I gave you a couple clues as far as this movie.
Right. You told me basement symbols and cat and mouse. And honestly, like, I knew what this movie was about generally, because who doesn't know who the Zodiac Killer is when you have friends that constantly talk about how Zodiac is like one of the best movies in the fucking world. So like, it was hard for me to like not have some bias, but I tried to go a little bit humorous with it just to stretch it a bit before I watched it. So
Perfect.
the Zodiac leaves symbols in the basements of all his murdered victims' homes, giving the police hints of who he is. Unfortunately for his victims, Tom and Jerry are on the case, and they really struggle to work together to the point where they constantly pull pranks on one another, and we just end up with a murderer forever on the loose.
See, I'd watch that. I'd watch the shit out of that.
I know you would.
yeah.
But
That
honestly,
sounds fantastic.
after watching the movie, it's kind of true. Like, they're not pulling pranks, but they're like, not actually working together because it's the 60s and 70s and no one like knows how to work together because there isn't any technology really to make things easy to collaborate,
Yeah.
Plus there's all that jurisdiction dick wagging around.
See, I feel like, so Zodiac, when I hear that, I think of the Zodiac signs, not a watch from the 60s. So this movie and the killer always kind of threw me off because I was like, oh, is he a killer like the killer was in Seven, where the 7 deadly sins, but the killer in Zodiac kills according to like the 12 Zodiac signs? I think that would make for a really compelling movie, but I don't know if we'll ever get it because of the kind of infamy of the Zodiac Killer that we actually got.
Right. Isn't that what Dirty Harry's about, though? I don't actually know.
Well, no, actually, she's actually right that Dirty Harry was based loosely on some of what the Zodiac letters had in there.
Right. No, I know. I was making a joke because they call him
I'm so
Scorpio.
sorry.
No, it's okay. And I was like, isn't that what like the Scorpio does? He goes,
Yeah.
It's fine.
Is that what the Scorpio does? Is he kills according to like the astrological signs? I haven't seen Dirty Harry.
Joke. I haven't either. Who thought I actually had seen Dirty Harry? Guys.
I did.
Well, Emily, honestly, your synopsis wasn't that far off other than the inclusion of Tom and Jerry. So let's jump into the actual back of the DVD cover synopsis. As a serial killer terrifies the San Francisco Bay Area and taunts police with his ciphers and letters, investigators in 4 jurisdictions search for the murderer. The case will become an obsession for 4 men as their lives and careers are built and destroyed by the endless trail of clues.
Who am I speaking with?
This is the Zodiac speaking.
Is there something I can call you that's a little less ominous?
Sam.
Sam. Is there somewhere we can meet Sam and talk about this?
Meet me on top of the Fairmont Hotel without anyone else or I'll jump.
Have a unit go to the Fairmont Hotel.
Sam.
Yes.
Do you think you need medical care?
Medical, not mental.
Wait a second. 4 men?
It's definitely 4 men if you include Anthony Edwards, who is the partner of Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah, I don't I don't know. We can talk about him for sure later, but I didn't really get a lot from him in this movie.
Well, I would almost argue your 4 would be Gyllenhaal, Downey Jr., Ruffalo, and I can't remember his name, Casey Jones.
Yeah, the cop from Vallejo, Elias Koteas.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, he's a great character actor too.
So the part that throws me though is investigators in 4 jurisdictions, because I get the angle of Gyllenhaal's like the political cartoonist, Downey Jr.'s the writer, Ruffalo's the cop. What's the 4th jurisdiction that they're talking about?
Oh, I thought they meant literally the different places that people were murdered.
Oh, that makes sense.
San Francisco, Vallejo, Solano,
and Napa Valley.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what kind of made me go, was this guy just a genius or just a total rando with his killings to kill people in 4 different police jurisdictions where then it would make it nearly impossible for everybody to work together? So it makes me kind of think, was this guy a genius or was he just like, I just feel like killing somebody today?
Well, have either of you read the book? I mean, I haven't.
No.
I'm tempted to read it.
I feel like this movie probably did a really good job of presenting the viewpoint from the book to the point where I don't need to read the book. Like, this movie was very fact heavy, and something that Fincher prided himself on was just the amount of detail that he was able to put in to this movie and kind of highlight. So I don't think I need to read it.
Right. Well, they spent a lot of time interviewing like the victims that survived and talking to different people in the case. You know, they talked to Dave Toschi and they talked to Robert Graysmith and other people within the movie that are real people. And so even Bill Anderson, they talked to him too. And so I think you're right. I had an interest in it when I first was like, oh, there's a book, and I literally see it on the shelves, and then actually going back and like reading through a lot of the information and spending some time even listening to David Fincher's commentary this morning, I was like, yeah, I don't know if I need to read it anymore.
Yeah. This movie makes a very clear stance on who it thinks is the serial killer, Zodiac. It kind of lays bare all of this circumstantial evidence against Arthur Lee, which is why I don't think I need to read the book, because the book comes to the same conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
But this idea of serial killers feels to me like it's so much a thing of like the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
Why don't we get the sense of serial killers nowadays?
Oh, it's definitely a thing of the past because of technology and communication. Like 100%. Like if you think about it now, even when Dylan was talking about Mindhunter, you know, they were developing the different tools and different like psyches of serial killers, and now there's just like so much more research out there of like how to prevent things and how to find someone right away. Like it is really, really hard to like kill multiple people right now and get away with it. At least that's my belief and my hope.
Yeah.
Well, I would kind of argue that it was such a new thing then that, because I think, what is it, the statistic is there's like, you always hear either in movies or something like that, there's always like 30 to 50 some odd serial killers always out there doing what they do.
I've never heard that before. Thanks for haunting my nightmares.
Sorry. But I think it's just because, it's communication is one of those things, but also given the climate of the world and whatnot, and the country and everything, I'm not trying to be political. I would argue that something like this is kind of would be seen a little bit smaller, maybe not as exciting because we've seen it so much. And I would also say, let's not forget that the Btk Killer was somebody who was caught in very recent history.
I don't know who that is.
He was a man who would break into people's homes and he would bind, torture, and kill, hence BTK. And he did this for decades, like through the 70s, 80s, 90s. Like he would go on a tear, stop for like 3-4 years, then start right back up again, and then stop. And eventually he was caught. He's in prison now but that was like in the 2000s when he was caught.
Mm-hmm. And I think, Dylan, you kind of hit a good point, which is this idea of like, it's not sensational enough anymore. Like, there's a certain amount of desensitization that we've experienced as a culture to killings like this. Like, now it's more like mass killings that kind of garner the national attention instead of these more local serial killers. The last couple ones I can remember are like that guy who was the sniper in, I think it was Washington.
Yep, the Washington sniper.
Yeah, so that's the last time I remember like a serial killer, like people actually being afraid of this idea. We also, I mean, do still experience serial killers. Like Robert Durst got away with killing 3 people, didn't get away. He's caught now and in jail. But like we do still have these people around. It's just unless they're kind of garnered some sort of infamy or their story is like a kind of like one of those weird true crime stories, it doesn't garner the national attention like these did back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Plus, like, I think people in the 60s and 70s trusted the media a lot more because it was the only place for them to get any information. And now we're so oversaturated with information. And like you said, Ben, we're just desensitized to everything. And then on top of it, with shows and movies having these creative stories about just different true crime ideas, there's just no way of surprising like the audience anymore or the society anymore.
Yeah, I was just about to say that agree with you on that with what you're saying there, Emily, is I would argue that the kind of the birth of the series was kind of a loss of the country's innocence, so to speak. You know, we came out of World War II and you had the baby boom generation and then the summer of love, all that. And then suddenly Charles Manson and Zodiac and, you know, all these other Ted Bundy and all these other people that led into it, that it really feels like almost like a loss of innocence that the country was kind of like, everything's good, everything's great, blah, 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 blah. And then boom, all this stuff happens and everything grinds to an absolute halt. And it's like, wow, this world is a lot scarier than we thought.
Are there any infamous female serial killers out there?
Eileen Wuornos.
Okay. Glad that there's some representation.
Lizzie Borden.
I don't know any of these names of people.
So this fascination with serial killers, it kind of extends nowadays into this fascination with true crime stories. Like it's that same idea, just kind of translated to a new time. But Fincher specifically has a huge fascination with serial killers. We see this in a lot of his movies, this idea of people just killing for seemingly no reason. Why do you think he, as a director, would latch on to these types of stories and want to tell these stories?
Oh, I haven't seen a lot of David Fincher movies. I mean, I've seen The Social Network. Sorry, Ben, I hated it.
I know you.
And that didn't have any killing that I know of. I've seen Gone Girl, but I read the book. And so it's like, I don't know. But then I've also seen this movie. So those are the 3 that I've seen.
Yeah. There's also Seven and Girl with a Dragon Tattoo.
Oh, I've seen the Swedish version of that. I haven't seen his version of that.
Dylan, you got a guess? Because
yeah, I maybe I kind of do here. And one thing that Fincher is kind of infamous for is he loves being meticulous. And like, he's a meticulous director. He does lots of takes.
Oh yeah,
you know,
I was reading about that.
To try to get the feeling of the mood and everything. And it might be just to get, you know, it's just to get a variety to kind of go, okay, that's better than what I was thinking. But with that idea of being meticulous, and also serial killers are meticulous. If you look at a lot of, you know, how did a lot of these guys stay hidden for so many years? You know, how did John Wayne Gacy kill 30 to 40 people and bury them underneath his house and no one knew? You had to be meticulous. You had to be very calculating with what you were doing and how you were doing it. And maybe, you know, he just kind of has a little bit of a mind for that because he himself may be very meticulous, not in that nature, but he might be kind of just see it as what makes this person do what they do might help explain why I do what I do.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I like that a lot. Well, and that idea of obsession kind of goes along with meticulousness, because this movie, the main theme I feel is this idea of obsession. all the characters in this movie are obsessed with finding this Zodiac killer. Like, how did that play into how you watched this movie, kind of experiencing that obsession along with the characters?
I don't know. I spent most of the time just along for the ride. And I don't know. I'll have some information later about how I found stuff to just be kind of weird, which is how things were so fast paced occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
But the only real obsessive personality that I got was from Jake Gyllenhaal's character. Like, that was the only one that I felt like was super obvious. The others were just kind of a slow burn to me. And I think that that's because we are in the first half of the movie, we have all these different characters that have all this different motivations of why they want to find the Zodiac killer. But then, like, halfway through, our real protagonist shows up, and that's Robert Graysmith. You know, like, no one else really matters after that point. Like, yeah, he reaches out to them and they try to figure things out together, but it's really all about him and his obsession. And so that's where I felt things became the most obsessive, especially when they start showing, like, his kids helping and the deterioration of his marriage. And, you know, it's that tonal shift from an overarching kind of true crime to more of a character study on Robert Graysmith.
So I get what you're saying about that, because the obsession for Robert Graysmith, he's the only character where it kind of overtakes his entire life. It's an all-encompassing obsession. But I would say that all of the characters, and even society in general, had an obsession with this Zodiac killer. Like, we see the scene where they've got the psychologist on the news show, and he's interviewing who they think is the Zodiac killer over the phone. Like, that obsession is not just Robert Graysmith's at that point. That's a media obsession. That's a societal obsession that would garner someone like a serial killer to be put on national television or local television. I'm sure that was nationally broadcast eventually, because it seems like such a monumental thing to happen. So I get what you're saying, but also, like, obsession is not limited to just Robert Graysmith in this movie.
Right. No, I completely agree with that. I just felt like it was more of like that underlying obsession, you know, where they eventually moved on because this spanned multiple decades.
Mm-hmm.
I would say where Mark Ruffalo's obsession is, and where it kind of dies, is he is obsessed with this case, because he is kind of droning on about it a lot, and he just really wants to figure this out and catch who it is, and he's obsessed with Arthur Lee Allen, that he so badly wants it to be him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think eventually in the movie, when the letter comes and they kind of went, you know, was this you, Dave? Did you do this just to keep the case going? And also Anthony Edwards going, I can't do this anymore. You know, I think that was him saying, I can't handle murder crime anymore and I want to go to a different department. But also, I think he was kind of saying, I'm tired of this Zodiac obsession and going after leads that go absolutely nowhere. They had, 2 or 3 great leads, and they amounted to nothing.
Yeah.
And that's so demoralizing. And I think that was kind of like with Ruffalo's obsession. And I would argue Downey Jr.'s obsession was addiction.
Sure.
He was an addict. And I think he was also a glory hound.
I was about to say he's obsessed with fame and like how people were reading what he was writing. And he kind of wanted to flaunt it.
Like, what was the one scene where he's like, his editor or the manager of the paper was like reading the letter that he wrote to the FBI to be like the lead investigator. And he goes, you wrote this on our letterhead. And he goes, but I'm the marked man. It's like, this was maybe like a year or two after he got threatened or so. And so he was still obsessed with that. He's coming to get me.
You talked to Dylan about how this movie has a couple compelling leads and then doesn't end up going anywhere. And in that way, this movie kind of smacks in the face of typical storytelling like this. And it's really only something you could get away with if it was based on a true story, kind of ending the movie on this lack of conclusion almost. This inconclusive ending.
The end with a question mark.
Right. And you could argue that the story hasn't ended at all, even 13, 14 years after the movie's been made, 50 years after the events happened, because we still don't know who the Zodiac Killer is, despite what internet sleuths think they just solved within the last, that was a couple months ago, wasn't it?
Oh, right.
Something like that,
They thought they found who the Zodiac Killer is, but...
And I think that's part of the reason why maybe this movie didn't get any Oscar nominations, is because it just kind of petered out at the end, where the audience just wasn't ready for something like that. They weren't ready for things to be like that. Because, like, didn't the critics like this movie?
Oh, yeah.
It was 86%, and it was on a lot of critics' end-of-year lists, but it garnered no Oscar love. But it's now considered, by a lot of people, one of the greatest movies of this century that we're currently in.
Well, first of all, Ben, what were the 5 movies up for Best Picture that year? Like, what were the big winners? Do you remember?
Juno,
Michael
Atonement,
Clayton.
Michael Clayton, There Will Be Blood, No Country for Old Men.
And, well, they're right there. The one that won Best Picture that year, No Country for Old Men. I would argue that No Country for Old Men kind of has that, and also a lot of the Coen brothers movies kind of end in that lackluster fashion, where they kind of just, it starts where they just kind of drop you into the situation, you see some stuff play out, and then it ends. That's how I kind of felt with No Country for Old Men. I didn't feel that there was a whole lot of conclusion to that movie. Yeah, we saw what happened to our lead character and everything, but it still kind of felt very open to more could be done.
I think the lack of Oscar love is more easily explained away than general public opinion. Like, the lack of Oscar love is because this movie was released in March. And prior to this, like, unless you're released in that window of September to December, like, you're not going to be nominated for many Oscars. Like, it took until almost Grand Budapest Hotel until we finally saw, like, a March movie, and then we got Black Panther after that, and now it's a little more all year round because of the way information moves and things kind of stay in the zeitgeist a little longer. But this movie was supposed to come out in 2006, and the studio said to Fincher, you need to cut this movie down, or we're not going to release it in time for the Oscars. Because the original movie was 3 hours and 8 minutes. And Fincher said, I can't cut it down that much in time for us to release it during Oscar season. So he took his time. He made the movie that we ended up getting, and they released it in March as a result, which kind of took it out of that Oscar thinking, because you don't release Oscar movies in March. But what I'm more concerned about is, like, even the general public opinion of this movie, it was not like this thing that it is now, where when you hear people talk about Zodiac now, it's like, oh my God, I love that movie so much. Why is it kind of a slow burn to loving this movie, do you think?
I haven't seen a lot of early David Fincher movies, but the first thing that I noticed was just the cinematography and how the characters interacted with each other. And I don't know if that's a combination of writing and directing and cinematography or not, but it seemed like a current movie. It seemed like it was ahead of its time in terms of just creative choices, where I think audience members nowadays are smarter and they feel a little bit more like they can be a critic to art. And back in 2007, it was more like, let's watch 300. Let's watch Epic Movie. Let's watch Hot Rod, And obviously people didn't actually like Hot Rod either back in the day. But, like they were looking for something that was a little less smart.
A little more escapism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would kind of argue that we really didn't have shows, and we didn't really get too deep into true crime until about that time period.
Oh, that makes sense.
Because I'm looking up right now, like the TV show The First 48, which is all about, the first 48 hours of investigating a murder. That started in 2004 is when that show started. So only about, 3 years away from Zodiac coming out. So I think it came out at the time when it was just starting, where like the true crime love on television was becoming bigger.
Mm-hmm.
It was starting to grow, I think, at that time, to now where it's a much more, now we have True Detective and a lot of shows like that are coming out or been out that did well. And I think part of that could be because, Zodiac may have helped that climbing up there. And so people are finding Zodiac because of their love of things like True Detective or The First 48, stuff like that they would come out and go, oh, have you ever seen Zodiac? No? Well, check it out. Oh my God, how come I never saw this before? This is so good.
I also think this is one of those movies that gets better with repeat viewings, which might be another reason.
I agree.
Because there's a way that you watch this when you first watch this movie where you're kind of along for the ride, especially if you don't know the Zodiac story, where you're kind of like being pulled in all the directions that the characters are. And then on repeat viewings, Emily, on repeat viewings, then it becomes more of a detached watch where you're like, you can see a lot of the details, a lot of the actual filmmaking stuff that's being used here very expertly. And I think it just makes it a little different of a watch and something that continues to build on itself until it becomes this Zodiac thing that we know of.
Right. And I think for watching it for the first time, you're exactly right. I just felt like I was getting pulled in multiple directions, and I had just this fascination and appreciation for what the movie was. And even though it took me 2 days to finish it, because we know how Wesley and Emily both really like short movies, I still wanted to go back and watch it right away because I felt like there was stuff that I missed and things that I wanted to understand. And so this kind of goes back to that obsession conversation we talked about, where it's not that I'm obsessed by Zodiac, the movie, or the killer, or any of it. It's that I'm so fascinated by how the story was told that I need to go back and explore it again.
Well, let's get into the specifically good, bad, and weird of this movie. What are some things that you thought were really good?
I'll kick this off. The basement scene.
Yes.
I remember when I saw this in the theater when I was in college, that scene kind of scared the living crap out of me. It was just so tense, that moment. And yeah, that I think is like and also the choice of, again, great character actor, Roger Rabbit, the guy who was the voice of Roger Rabbit.
Oh, really?
As the guy in the basement, that he's a normal looking guy, but you get the right amount of shadow on him and he looks creepy as hell.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Just the way that the tension builds from right when Robert Graysmith goes into his car, you're all like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you're literally looking for a mass murderer and you're going to go to a second location, you fucking idiot.
Mm-hmm.
And the tension just continues to build over and over again. And the way that they use the light in the basement, like when he first turns on the light to go down the basement to show, oh, I have a basement. That's perfectly normal in California, to the point where the man turns the light off and he just kind of disappears. And Robert Graysmith is running and suddenly he appears again. The tension continues all the way through until Robert gets home. You don't feel any sort of release until then. It's like you're holding your breath that whole time.
Even after you see him close the door and say, "Good night, Mr. Graysmith," that you're thinking, so after that door closed, did he like go, okay, his car's gone. Go, follow him.
I think the scene that stands out for me in this movie is the one where they're interrogating Arthur Lee.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about making the most of what limited time you have on screen, because John Carroll Lynch in this movie is frightening. And he is so good. And you're sitting there watching that scene and you're like, stop putting you're almost on Arthur Lee's side where you're like, dude, stop putting your foot in your mouth. Like, shut up. Like, you're almost his lawyer in the corner, like, no, stop. Because it feels so incriminating, everything he says, and every little clue is being pointed out that, hey, this is the guy. Like, you can feel after that scene why Mark Ruffalo would be obsessed with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and also his expert line deliver where he goes, if I was the Zodiac, I wouldn't. It's just so flat and unemotional and freaky.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of my favorite scenes is actually just the opening scene.
Yes.
With the fireworks and the dolly shot where they pushed the car literally the whole way so they could get that angle, and the fireworks are going off in the background. And Mike, I don't remember his last name, comes out to meet, is it Darlene, in the car? Mm-hmm. And right at that moment, I was like, okay, I think I'm going to enjoy this movie because it was just so interesting and
it draws you in.
Yeah, from that point on, like the scene continues and we get to the first murder. And I think it was a Three Dog Night song, actually, which I grew up listening to with my parents. And so it was such a fun way to get the period of the 60s and to get the entirely spooky, insane story. Like, it was such a good setup.
And also it's got this thing where it's like when you start your movie with a shot like that, you let the audience know you're in good hands here.
Right.
You may not like where the story goes, but film wise, like we're gonna be okay. We're gonna have some fun here today. And there's another shot that they do, which is probably my favorite shot of the entire movie. It's right before the cab killing, where the camera's over the top of it and it's moving through the city, like directly over the top of the cab. That's just such a cool shot to kind of orient you around San Francisco.
Yeah, I would agree. Both of those are incredibly good scenes. That opening scene, that one's really good. And Good Ear, that is a Three Dog Night song. And I think that you're absolutely right, Emily. That was one of my first notes was, boom, this puts you right into the idea of this is the late 60s. This is California, and it was very good at just getting that establishment of this is the time you're in. This is the place you are.
The other scene I want to call out is the killing by the lake scene, because there's something about that scene that is so upsetting because of how bright it is in this movie. Like, if you had done that scene in the dark, like, it's like, oh yeah, they're going to die. But like the fact that it was in broad daylight in a public place, like that added a level of scariness to the entire proceedings.
I would also add to that the fact that there's no score during that scene, because all you're hearing in the background is just grass, breeze, leaves, tree. That's it. So you're really getting that visceral sound, and that's just disturbing.
Yeah, I don't think David Fincher even had like an underlying score throughout the movie. I think he just chose different songs to be in different places and then just didn't have music in a lot of other places. Like there wasn't like an orchestral soundtrack that was going throughout the movie. There were like songs that you knew, or there was nothing.
There's a score there. It's just very, very subtle. And I actually said in my notes, it reminded me very much of the 1984, the original Nightmare on Elm Street, because it had that unsettling piano kind of playing where it would be playing and then it would change keys or it would go to a different key that just didn't sound like it should go there. It went to a place that threw you off balance. And I thought that was a very effective way of doing that too, was with some of the score.
I think the thing I most want to call out about this movie, though, is, well, it's partly a credit to the screenplay, because we just watched Michael Clayton, where it felt like there was no character injection into anything. Whereas in this movie, the quiet moments are just filled with character stuff. And the thing I liked about this movie is that its incorporation of humor into it felt really organic and character driven. Like I'm going to call out some of my favorite lines, but
oh my gosh, Ben, you and I are on the same page right now, because I totally agree. Keep going.
But in the bar scene where Paul Avery asks Robert Graysmith, like, what are some things you like? And he's like, I love to read. And Paul Avery's like, yeah, what else? And he's like, I enjoy books. And
right?
Paul Avery goes, that's the same thing.
Yep.
Or when Tosky answers the phone from Bill Anderson calling, he's like, you owe me a new lamp is the first thing he says. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is amazing. And when Paul Avery is teasing Graysmith all the time at the newspaper. You know, like, I've been thinking, oh God.
My favorite one, and well, it's not super PC anymore. It's
oh, you're gonna quote it.
I'm gonna do it. Yep, Robert Graysmith talking to like the little shoe shine guy, and he's like, "Does it bother you that people call you Shorty?" And the guy says, "Does it bother that people call you retard?" And Jake Gyllenhaal goes, "They don't call me that," and then kind of walks away. And then the next scene is him with Paul Avery, and Robert Graysmith goes, "Do people ever call me names?" And Paul Avery goes, "You mean like retard?" and Jake Gyllenhaal goes, "Yeah," and Paul Avery's like, "No, we don't do that."
Yeah, exactly. That was my favorite one because it's so not nice. But
there are so many good ones, though, and you're right. They just add to the characters. I felt like that was such a good part of this movie, where even though we didn't get like a super in-depth understanding of each of the characters the whole time, you got pieces of them that connected you to them, you know, because the story was moving just so fast, you know, we're just going boom, boom, boom the whole way, but they still told like a complete police story with interesting characters, with nuances that I wasn't expecting.
Look at the very opening when we first meet Jake Gyllenhaal. You know, he's frantically getting his son ready for school, and he's brushing his teeth, and he's also working on a cartoon, and he's driving while he's working on a cartoon. It just shows that this guy is a very frantic, moving person, and that kind of moves throughout the movie, is that he is very much like he's always thinking of something else while he's doing something else. Always. And Paul Avery's character, first line out of it after they get the letter, he goes, "It's like noon or whatever," and he's like, "So anybody want to go to the bar? Anyone?" And so they go drinking, like, and it's, I don't know what time of the day it's supposed to be, but I imagine it's not closing time that they're going to the bar to go start drinking. And so that kind of shows you right there. Paul Avery, yeah, he's a writer, but he's also a drinker. And also the cookies with Mark Ruffalo's character, the animal crackers.
Yep. Or him eating off the plate of his partner in that diner scene. Like, I love that part too. Yeah.
And that great line that Brian Cox gives as he's laying down in the cop car, he goes, "What are these on the floor? Cookies?" You know, just like...
The last thing I want to call out in this movie is Robert Downey Jr.'s performance, because I feel like it's the last genuine Robert Downey Jr. performance we get before everything he does is just some variation of Iron Man.
Yes. Oh, I'm so glad you said that.
This felt like an actual character and not, oh, Robert Downey Jr. is doing his thing again.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody should have been nominated for an Oscar for this movie, it should have been Robert Downey Jr. I honestly believe
from an acting standpoint, I'd agree with you.
Yes. Yeah. From an acting standpoint, I think he gives the best performance out of everybody. I would argue.
I mean, I completely agree. I think the woman that played Melanie also did a phenomenal job just with her acting. It was very subtle.
Who's
she was
Melanie?
His wife.
Oh, the wife. Okay.
You don't even remember her name.
No.
Chloe Sevigny? Is that the character we're talking about, or the person?
I mean, you're leading me right into my bad, Emily, and that's, I don't find any of the women characters in this movie compelling or like they're given any sort of fair shake along with this plot. That's my biggest bad.
I didn't think they had like any opportunities, but I also think that that's partially because we're following Robert Graysmith's story. You know, we're not following anyone else's story, and I think that's part of the fault where we miss out on some of the pieces. And also, the only surviving people are men and a woman that thinks Zodiac tried to kill her.
Yep.
Is it maybe just the question of maybe the reason why the women in this film do not have as much agency or drive is that was also the time period. You know, this was before like women's lib hit in like the, again, late 60s and into the 70s. You know, is it possible that could be part of it, that maybe they just didn't have many female police officers at that time because this was the late 60s?
Well, I mean, that's true, but it's the perspective of Robert Graysmith, you know, and he's the one that's remembering things. He's the one that is driving the story. And, you know.
Okay, I get where you're coming from now. Okay, I understand what you're saying.
Is it easier to forgive things like this where there are no strong women characters, there are no strong minority characters in something that's based on a true story than an original story? Because I remember you kind of going after There Will Be Blood of why are there no women characters? Why are there no minorities? When like it was like the early 1900s in the middle of like farmland, like you wouldn't expect to see strong minority characters or anything. Or we called out Michael Clayton for not having strong women characters, even though Tilda Swinton was in that. Mm-hmm. But all of a sudden now we're giving Zodiac a pass, it seems like.
It's not that I'm giving it a pass. It's that I can understand why, because the source material is written by a man and his perspective. And the people that survived to tell their stories were men. And the people that were on the case were men. Now, I would have loved, I thought it would have been a really easy way to have stronger female characters in this, is if we got a perspective from Melanie or from Dave Tosky's wife, you know, like we didn't get anything from them, but like seeing a different side of these characters, I felt like that would have been a really easy way. And I thought that the woman that played Melanie did the best she could do with the amount of time that she was there. Like her coming back at the end to be like, hey, you need to finish this. You need to get this done. Like, I thought that was a beautiful moment.
Any other bad stuff?
Yeah, it's not that it was bad. It just was hard to follow some things because of how fast time moved in this movie. And like, I still think that the movie itself did a really great job of telling the complete story. And it was also a cohesive story. But it went so fast that someone who didn't know the story very well, now I'm like forced to watch it again, which I'm like happy to do, but it just was so hard with the passing of time. And I also didn't really get or understand why Robert Graysmith ended up being obsessed with Zodiac. Like, he's a cartoonist. I didn't really get it, even though like everyone was obsessed, but like, why was he so obsessed?
I mean, he's obsessed right off the bat. He says, I like puzzles. That's like one of the first lines we get from Robert Graysmith.
Yeah, but it just seems so weird because like everyone else moves on and he doesn't. And he just seems like a normal person, but maybe he's just not. He's just weird.
Well, and I wonder when the decision is made by him to write the book on it, and if the real all-encompassing obsession becomes after he makes that decision or before.
That's true.
So yeah, that's interesting.
Maybe it's because he talks to Paul Avery, and Paul Avery's like, "Fuck that! I'm not doing that shit." And so he's like, "Well, then I have to. Someone has to."
That last scene between he and between Graysmith and Robert Downey is kind of a sad, pathetic scene. It's just kind of tragic. Yeah. It's just, what a sad state.
It's also something that was almost completely fabricated by the movie.
I kind of figured that.
Yeah. Any weird?
Okay. So I don't know why. I know there were some characters in here that I just like did not know who they were, and suddenly they were there and then suddenly they were gone. But the only reason I know who this guy is because of that, was it 2 Days in Paris? But who the fuck was Adam Goldberg playing, and why was he there?
He's just the guy that replaces Paul Avery. That's it.
Yep.
It just was so random, and like, why did he need to be there? And why did he need to be someone I recognize? It seems so stupid.
Yeah, that's probably one point where casting a known person was probably not a good thing, because it does make you think like, oh, this person's going to have some sort of significance coming up.
And then he didn't. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He was just there. I was like, what the fuck is this?
Well, maybe that was kind of a red herring purposely that Fincher did, because Gyllenhaal
I'm not giving him that.
Okay, fine.
At this point in this movie, it did not need red herrings related to who is this person.
I'm not saying it did.
Unless it was going to all of a sudden be someone who might have been the Zodiac Killer, there's no reason to introduce that character at that point in the movie.
True.
I thought the weirdest decision was the decision to CGI San Francisco.
I honestly didn't notice that.
I thought there were a couple, specifically the scene with the cab killing where they're doing the investigation. Something looked off in the background of the scene, and it's because they chose to CGI in the skyline of San Francisco and the buildings around them because it was cheaper than actually like recreating a set of 1960s San Francisco.
Oh, I did do some reading on how like there were some places that they just wanted to go to, like where the actual murders took place or like somewhere similar to that. And things were changed so much, or they didn't want to like impact the community.
Yeah.
In that way. And so like it could have been something like that, but it just is interesting to think about like what decisions you have to make based on budget. And then also because it's a real story and people are traumatized by it, like what they had to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting too, Emily, because that scene at the lake, I was reading that they went back to film at that same lake where the killings happened and all of the trees were gone. So David Fincher flew in oak trees so that there would be trees for the Zodiac Killer to hide behind like he did in actuality. That's an attention to detail and meticulousness that Dylan was talking about.
Yes.
I would also say that Fincher is one of those directors where he's kind of almost the opposite of someone like Tarantino, where in Tarantino it's like, I'm going to film with film until the day I die. While Fincher has kind of embraced new tech. And, when a new digital camera comes out, he's like one of the first people to really start using it. He's using it a lot. And I think maybe that was just something that he made that choice of, I want classic San Francisco, but I know I can't get it. So I have to do it in some way. So we're going to do a lot of green screening. And also, I think, he also pushes that envelope to maybe progress the technology as well. Because, yeah, that scene with the overhead shot may be all computer animated, but, we got to always start somewhere. And he's like, you know what? If no one else is going to do it, I'll do it. Why not?
That embracing the new also kind of extends into the way that this movie is structured, because this movie is structured almost like 3 different movies with a different focus every act. And it's also almost like an introduction to how short form TV was going to be done in the Netflix era. Like you could almost do a 3-part limited TV series with this movie where each part is like an hour and 15 minutes and you're following like, here's the Zodiac coming onto the scene. Here's the police investigation. Here's Graysmith going after it. Cause that's very much how this plot is structured. And it just feels a little off in a movie when like, oh, if this were done in TV and there were like actual breaks in action, like it would feel a little more organic, even if you're binging it. Well, let's put a bow on Zodiac. Dylan, give us like 30 seconds. How about you wrap up your ideas? Tell us what Oscars this movie should have been nominated for.
Honestly, I think it should have been up for special effects or visual effects, best picture, maybe best adapted screenplay, and a best supporting actor nomination for Robert Downey Jr.
Okay. Emily?
I agree with Dylan on best picture. I would say best cinematography.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I agree with visual effects. Yeah, honestly, for me, it was just like best picture and best cinematography were kind of the 2 that stood out to me. And I thought like everyone did an incredible job with their acting. I didn't know. I haven't seen all of the 2007 movies yet. And so I was like, I don't know if I can put that on there yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I agree with best picture. I think best screenplay. I think this movie does a great job of building tension and with the script. I also think best film editing. We didn't talk about the scene where
that's right.
Anthony Edwards is making all the phone calls to different police organizations.
So good. I love that scene.
Yeah, me too. But film editing, definitely. I think director also just you reward the meticulousness and the attention to detail of this movie. And then we talked about Robert Downey Jr. I think he should have gotten at least a supporting actor nom for this one.
Mm-hmm.
But I think 3 recommendations from all of us.
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. This is my favorite Fincher movie.
I think this is a great movie to have anyone watch, honestly. Like, even though my mom would probably struggle with what she calls gore, I think she would still enjoy the story. And she's not really a movie person, but I think she would tolerate it.
Emily, how about some Twits Light?
Okay, we're going to keep this short, guys. Ready?
Let's do it.
First thing that comes to mind. What is Robert Graysmith's next obsession in book form? What is he writing his next book on?
Pogs.
What?
Do you guys remember Pogs?
No.
They were the little little cardboard discs, and you had the plastic slammer. It was a game that was played in the 90s. I think he'd get really into Pogs.
Okay.
I would Magic the Gathering.
Oh yeah.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Because it would have strategy, collection, all those kinds of things that he loves, because it's all just kind of one big puzzle. How do I build the perfect deck?
You have to be somewhat obsessed to enjoy Magic the Gathering, too.
It's true.
Okay, next one. Number 2. So Robert Graysmith was a cartoonist turned investigator. I want to know the best ironic job turned investigator.
A city sewage employee.
Man, you took
digging through his poop.
Very similar to mine. Yeah, that was good.
Yep. Finds weird things in the water, and he needs to figure out.
And starts putting puzzles together and links all of the poop things that he finds.
Yep, and we find out there's a serial killer flushing body parts or something.
As someone who has sat with writing samples in front of him to see if a kid's been cheating on a test, it's got to be teacher.
Oh my God, yes.
Right? Like you've done that where you're like, those A's don't look the same.
So you'd be like the handwriting expert?
Yeah.
Well, like for me, it's like when you see the same exact work where it's slightly incorrect.
Yep.
And you go, wait a second, hang on here. Like this person obviously couldn't quite make out what that letter was, and they wrote something completely indistinguishable, but in the same style.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, number 3, last one. What was the most ridiculous thing that Dave Toschi had Bill Armstrong buy for him? So fill in the blank. Animal crackers, a new lamp, and blank.
Condoms.
Okay.
Can't get that wife pregnant.
Yep, they're practicing safely. So he, emergency, I need you to run out and get me some.
I'm going to say a wooden leg. And it was because Dave Toschi didn't even need the wooden leg for himself. He just wanted to have a wooden leg for a beating stick.
Oh my God.
But Bill Armstrong, being so supportive, was just like, yeah, here's your leg, bud.
Okay, there, Rocket.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you, Emily.
Mm-hmm.
Well, today's game is going to be very different from how we normally play games. So,
okay, game on, game on, game on.
Dylan and I play D&D together, and Emily and I have played Star Wars together. So, role-playing games is something that we are all three familiar with. So, we are going to do a 2007 movie escape room. So, the way this is going to work is there are a series of puzzles that you need to answer in order to escape the room. You get 3 hints if you get stuck, and 3 wrong answers before you lose. So we're going to try to see if you can escape the room. So here we go.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Do you guys have any questions before we get started?
Nah, let's do this shit.
Okay, all of the puzzles are 2007 movie related.
Good thing I've seen all of them now, right?
That's right, yeah. And it's only ones we've done, too. I didn't throw in any that we haven't done.
Okay, good.
So, yep. You walk into a small room about the size of a large bedroom. There are no windows, and the walls, floor, and ceiling are painted black. The door closes to lock you in, and you are left in complete silence and pitch blackness. As you begin to feel your way around the room, a bright number pad illuminates on the wall opposite of you, and writing appears on the wall. The writing says, "Enter the 4-digit code to begin your stay."
Oh my God. What is this? Is it 1408?
I would concur.
So you punch in the code 1408?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The code is accepted. And the room slowly begins to morph around you to reveal that you are in a 1980s style arcade.
Oh my God.
A man in a referee shirt stands behind the counter.
Shit, I know his name. Oh God, this is from not Donkey
You can interact with any characters in this too.
Oh
so
yeah,
you know.
I want to say hi to the ref and ask him what games are good.
Oh, we have a lot of great games here. I mean, there's a guy over there who's just about to hit a kill screen on Donkey Kong. But then we also got like Galaga and Asteroid and Arkanoid and Centipede. I love Centipede.
Oh, do you
Who
now?
doesn't love Centipede?
Dylan, do you want to go watch the kill screen?
Yeah, let's go watch that kill screen.
We'll go cheer him on.
By the time you get there, nobody is at the machine.
Well, then I'm going to play and lose so I can see the 3 letters of who probably got like the highest amount.
So you attempt to play, but when you go to put your money in, it doesn't take it.
Bitch.
So the coin just goes through?
I go back to the ref and I go, hey, ref, why can't I play?
He says, well, you need tokens to play.
Damn it.
You can't just use your own money. But I actually don't have any tokens left, but maybe you can ask some of the other people in the arcade. And he references 3 other people in the arcade. There is
Dylan, run a perception check.
Nope, no dice checks.
Damn it.
One person is sitting in the corner with multiple milkshakes in front of him. One looks frightening and limps as he walks near a counter in the back. And one has a terrible haircut and looks really sad, sitting in a diner-like booth.
Okay, the only one I get is milkshakes, Dylan. Milkshakes is obviously Daniel Plainview? No.
Okay,
what the hell is his name?
Daniel Plainview, you got it.
Yeah.
Yep, from There Will Be Blood.
The limping person, I can't think of someone who's limping.
I can't either.
And a terrible haircut, sitting in a booth.
Well,
is that Nick Cage?
It is Nick Cage.
Oh my god,
wow.
Yeah. From Next. That's Nick Cage from Next.
Well, so then it's not a terrible haircut, it's a terrible toupee.
No, I'm pretty sure he has a bad haircut.
It's a haircut in that movie.
Okay.
It's so bad. Okay, Dylan, who do you want to go talk to?
Let's talk to Nick Cage.
All right, we're gonna go say hi to Nick Cage.
Let's rage in the cage.
You go talk to Nick Cage, and he's kind of sad. He's like, "Oh, that guy over there. He took my milkshake. He came over yelling at me, and he took my milkshake."
Why? Did he say why?
He just came over and said, "I'm gonna drink your milkshake."
I'm gonna look it over at Daniel Plainview. How many milkshakes does he have over there?
There are 5 empty ones and 2 full ones.
Okay, I'm gonna tell Nick Cage. Would you like me to go get your milkshake back?
Oh yeah.
What flavor was it?
Chocolate.
Okay.
Oh.
I'm gonna go over to Daniel Plainview and grab both of his milkshakes and say, "I drink your milkshakes," and walk away.
Oh, you're a bastard in a basket.
Definitely.
Okay. You've got his milkshakes.
Yeah, I'm gonna go bring them over to Nick Cage, right, Dylan?
Yep. Let's take those over to him, and I'll hand him that nice frosty milkshake.
As you walk over there, the guy in the at the counter begins to flip a coin.
As in the ref?
Nope. The guy with the limp
guy?
begins to flip a coin.
Oh shit.
It's Anton Chigurh.
Shit, we're gonna fucking die, aren't we?
No, that's Anton Chigurh, am I right?
Yeah, that's
it
Anton.
is, yeah.
Yeah. I'll walk over to him.
Well, you bring Nick Cage his milkshake's like, "Oh, thank you so much."
I'm only giving him one. I'm keeping the other one.
Well, of course.
That goes into my inventory.
No, he understands. He understands. He's like, "Oh, is there anything I can do for you?"
Can you predict what that guy is going to do over there?
I can.
Tell me what.
But only if you go over there real quick.
Okay.
Because I'm limited in my powers.
Dylan, let's go.
All right, I go over to Anton.
Go Tails. Tails never fails. Okay, so you're over by Anton?
Yep. I'd argue he's got a pretty bad haircut too, but you know.
Hello, amigo. Call it.
How's it going?
Call it.
Call it? Why am I calling it?
You have everything to gain and everything to lose. Call it.
Okay. Should we go with what Nick Cage suggested?
Absolutely.
All right. All right. I call Tails.
Okay, he flips the coin and it does come up as Tails. And he's like, You've earned this. You've earned this token. Use it wisely. It's not no ordinary token.
Okay, what makes it unordinary?
It saved your life today.
Okay.
Cool. I'm going to give him
Good
the
answer.
milkshake as a thank you.
Wow. I'm lactose intolerant.
Oh, I'm sorry, man. Do you want my Lactaid?
He takes your Lactaid and, for the first time ever, smiles.
a single tear sheds from him.
Can we go play the game now? Figure out who is at the...
Yeah. So you go and put your coin your token in the machine, and the screen goes black, and the room begins to morph around you.
Ah, shit.
Ooh.
And you find yourselves in a giant store where the walls are slowly turning black. A giant book sits on the counter near you, but the pages are all blank.
Mr. Megorium.
A clock sits on the wall, seemingly broken since the hands are no longer moving. In the room are a little boy wearing a fruit hat, a woman playing air piano, 3 pregnant women, 2 of which look very similar and one vigorously shaking an Etch-a-Sketch, and a man eating a carrot in the corner.
Okay, I got Shoot 'em Up. We got Air Piano Girl is Natalie Portman from this movie. We got the stupid kid. I think his name is Henry. No, that's the mutant is Henry.
From which movie is it?
Mr. Megorium.
Oh, God.
But Fruit Hat is the kid. I can't remember his name, but Fruit Hat is the kid. And then the 3 pregnant ladies, the 2 that are similar are Carrie, what's her name? From Waitress and from August Rush. What's Carrie's last name?
Carrie Russell.
And then I'm assuming Juno is the other pregnant girl with an Etch-a-Sketch.
You're mostly right. Yep.
What? What did I get wrong?
The little boy.
Who has a fruit hat? Oh my god, I'm stupid. That's oh shit. That's why can't I think of his name? Yellow hair. Meet the Robinsons. Oh my god. Lewis! His name is Lewis! It's Lewis.
Yep.
Sorry, Dylan. I've seen all these fucking movies now.
That's okay.
In the background, you hear a distant train whistle.
Ooh.
Do I see train tracks?
There are train tracks that run through the store.
Okay, Dylan, what should we do?
Get out of the way. Are we standing on the train tracks or no?
You are not.
Okay.
Let's go talk to someone. Who do you want to talk to?
Yeah. Let's go talk to oh god, the Carrie Russells.
We're gonna talk to the pregnant girls.
Okay. Which one are you talking to?
Oh, aren't they all together?
No, they're kind of spread out throughout the room.
Oh,
okay.
Oh my god, that's so many people. I'm gonna go to Juno because she has an Etch-a-Sketch and I feel like she has a map on it or something.
Oh wow.
And I'm gonna hit her up with some Minnesotan accent.
Yeah.
Oh well, hey there, what you know? how you doing?
What up, home skillet?
Nothing much. What are you Etch-a-Sketching?
Oh, I'm just trying to shake it out, but this is one doodle that can't be undid, home skillet.
Can I see it?
Sure. She shows you, and it's just a picture of a penis.
All right, we're gonna go over to Carrie Russell from Waitress.
Well, hi there.
Hi there.
Hi.
How are your pies?
That's a very personal question.
Yeah, jeez. Just go right out there and ask about pie.
Well, Carrie Russell's very direct in this movie.
No, they're very meaty, but I'm pretty hungry.
What are you hungry for?
Well, you already came at me with the word pie. That put a little wrinkle in my brain. I think I need a pie right now.
Hopefully that's not Sweeney Todd.
You hear the train whistle again, and it sounds like it's the same distance away.
What the fuck, Ben?
Let's go to the other Carrie Russell from August Rush.
August Rush?
Yeah.
Do you know what that train whistle is?
No, but it doesn't sound like it's getting any closer.
Wow. Just a wealth of information.
Yeah. I don't think the train's due for a while, though, so that may be why it's not here yet.
Is it due at 3:10?
You know, I think I did hear that it was, yeah.
Okay, we got to get the clock working to get it to be 3:10.
Okay. Let's go over to the clock and take a peek at it and see if there's...
Yep, you look at the clock, and the clock has no cover on it. It's just the hands are exposed.
Okay.
Do you want me to move the time to 3:10, Miss Emily? Yeah, I move the hands to 3:10.
Okay, when you do that, the train begins to barrel into the store, and the second it does barrel in, the doors open and fog is released into the entire room.
Oh, great.
Cool.
So it's very foggy now, and at the same time, all three pregnant women go into labor.
Oh my God. Are you kidding me?
What the fuck?
Benjamin, what the fuck is happening? This is The Mist, right?
It is The Mist, yeah.
Okay.
Do I have a gun in my hand with 3 bullets? Is that how we get out of this?
No. You do not have a weapon, no.
Okay, I turned the fog machine off.
It's not a fog machine. It's like an ethereal fog.
Turn off the mist machine.
I guess I call to Lewis and Natalie Portman and the no named man from Shoot 'Em Up to come and help. Mr. Smith.
Yes.
I have them come in and deliver the 3 babies.
Okay, the women are having a lot of difficulty having their babies. Like, the babies just won't come out at this point.
I guess we're in for a long labor then. Perception check.
It seems like something is stopping them from having the babies. Like they need something before they'll have the baby.
Okay.
Is he eating a carrot?
He is eating a carrot, yeah.
So Carrie Russell's hungry.
Give her some carrot.
The man won't give you his carrot.
I'll ask him for another carrot in his pocket.
Nope, he's not willing to give up carrots.
Can I trade him for a carrot?
You can.
Shit, I don't have anything.
You said
I gave up my lactate.
We're in a store?
You're in a store, yeah.
There's a big book. Fuck.
Is it like in a big book that doesn't have anything written in it?
I turn the pages and I look through it real quick.
I mean, you look through it and nothing happens.
Are there any pies in this store? Like Hostess pies or anything?
There are no pies visible in the store.
Son of a bee. This sucks. I hate puzzles.
No, I love puzzles. This is amazing. This is like my favorite thing we've ever done. Okay, so I'm gonna just flat out ask what they need.
So this is your hint? Or are you asking the people?
I'm asking the people.
Yeah.
Okay. The one pregnant woman says she's hungry.
Yep.
One pregnant woman says she's thirsty. And one pregnant woman says she needs to hear music.
Okay. So Natalie Portman. Oh my God, there's fucking fruit on his hat. Lewis, give me your hat.
Okay, he hands you his hat.
Thanks, Lewis. You're the best. High five.
High five back.
And I give that to Carrie Russell. Juno's thirsty.
Carrie Russell does not appreciate the hat.
There's fruit on it.
She's hungry, but she's hungry for a very specific item.
Oh my God, fuck me.
She said pie.
Is there a piano in the room?
There is not a piano, a physical piano in the room.
So Natalie Portman's in the room playing an imaginary piano?
Yep.
Can I tell her go stand by Carrie Russell from August Rush and try to play something?
Okay, she does, but she doesn't really have direction on what to play.
What's your favorite? What do you want to hear, Carrie Russell?
I'd love to hear the song that my baby was conceived to.
Oh my God, who the fuck remembers that, Ben?
Ben does.
Oh shit, I do. It's it's a marvelous night for a moon dance.
That's correct. Natalie Portman begins to play Moon Dance on her air piano, and the baby pops out.
Shit, yeah.
Right.
When the baby pops out, Carrie Russell disappears.
We just have a baby now? Okay, I'm going to hand it to Mr. Smith because Mr. Smith, I know, can handle babies.
Okay, he takes the baby. And the baby stops crying.
Very
Perfect.
Good. Juno is thirsty.
Is there a blender?
There's not a blender.
Fuck.
What kind of fruit is on this hat?
Oh, like the typical fruit hat stuff.
Yeah.
Don't you
So
know?
like apples, pineapples, grapes, oranges.
Okay, I take an orange. Break it open and say, okay, if you're thirsty, let's have some. You want some orange juice? I'll give you some freshly squeezed orange juice.
She takes the glass and drinks it, and the baby comes out, and she disappears.
What glass? Sorry.
It's fine.
Give the baby to Clive Owen.
The baby stops crying. Clive Owen has 2 babies in his hands.
And still eating a carrot.
All right, now
And
this
still
other
eating a
Carrie
carrot,
Russell. Now, what did you want, Carrie Russell, from Waitress?
I could really go for a pie right now.
What kind of pie?
Any kind, just a pie. Be creative, like me.
How the fuck can I make a pie?
She said a meat pie before.
Okay.
I don't want to do that.
I'm going to try something here. I'll take all the fruit off of the hat.
She does not want a fruit pie.
Okay.
And there's nothing in this book.
What else is in this room? There's nothing in there but the book.
There's babies. Dude, there's babies. You can make a baby pie. I don't want. There's babies.
Now that Mr. Smith has the babies, he's not letting you have them back.
Perfect, because I don't want to make
God.
this baby needs to come out pie.
No.
I do not need this. Yeah, I was going to say, I do not need this to be a long dead baby joke.
No, I thought it was a Sweeney Todd joke. So,
something with that book.
Okay, I'm gonna ask Lewis. I'm gonna ask Lewis to invent something in this book, to draw something in this book to help us make a pie.
So Lewis tells you that the book is magic and not science. So he actually has no power over the book.
Okay, Natalie Portman, how does magic work?
How does magic work?
Yeah, how does the book work? Tell us how the book works.
Typically, you just think of something you want and then open the book while saying that, and the thing will appear.
Oh, that's right. Close the book, and I think of a...
She doesn't want a fruit pie.
She doesn't want a fruit pie. And I open it up.
Okay, and when you open it up, she doesn't want a fruit pie is there.
And I give it to Carrie Russell from Waitress.
She eats it, and the baby comes out, and Carrie Russell disappears.
Baby goes to Clive Owen.
Baby goes to Clive Owen. Clive Owen hands you a carrot and says to you, you know what you have to do to clear the fog. And he and Natalie Portman leave.
We're not killing Lewis.
You know what you have to do to clear the fog.
We're not killing Lewis.
I'll do it.
No! Dylan! There's gotta be another way. Okay, I close the book.
Mm-hmm.
And
the book disappears.
Fuck you! I was gonna get a fan, you bitch.
We're not being given many options here.
I don't want to use a hint, but I kind of want to use a hint because I want to know that we don't have to kill Lewis.
You are not going to be happy with the hint then.
Dylan, I hand you the carrot and I look away. And I go, Lewis, I'm so sorry.
I proceed to grab Lewis by the head and shove the carrot through his eye.
The carrot goes through Lewis's eye, and as it does, he falls to the ground, and the room clears of the fog and transforms back into the pitch black room, and the door opens, and you are free to leave.
Fuck you, Ben. You bitch.
I was almost half expecting to stab him with the carrot. Then he goes, "Ow! What are you doing?"
Well, thanks for playing my game today, guys.
That was really fun.
It was darkly fun.
Yeah. So that'll probably be a thing that we do every year from now on because I had a lot of fun writing that. So
yeah, it was good.
Okay, well,
I'm proud of you.
Thank you for joining us this week to talk about Zodiac, Dylan. Appreciate you.
Oh, thank you so much. Once again, one of my favorite movies ever.
And Emily, thanks for joining us as well.
Of course. I had a great time.
And before we go, we are going to briefly tease next week's episode. And Dylan is going to guess what movie we are doing next week based on the 3 clues that I give Emily to write her synopsis. So the 3 clues are virus, dog, and New York City.
Okay. Do you just want me to say it?
What 2007 movie are we doing next week, Dylan?
I Am Legend?
We are doing I Am Legend next week, and we have the entire cast of When Cinephiles Attack joining us next week. It's going to be a big group love session because we love those guys. We're going to have so much fun talking to them and hearing Emily's guess at what this movie could be about.
I mean, I have a pretty good idea because I kind of know what the movie's about. But yeah, it's a very famous movie.
All of the movies we've been doing are very famous.
Yeah.
For the most part. Yeah.
Are they? I don't know about that.
Well, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe, rate, share us with a friend or two, and talk to us on social media at IDYP_podcast on Twitter and Instagram. We would love to hear feedback about what you thought about the escape room game today, because that was something that we've never tried before, and I'd love to hear some feedback. But thank you for joining us, and please join us next week as we talk about I Am Legend. And Dylan, before we go, give us in your best Daniel Day-Lewis impression, I drink your podcast, I drink it up.
I drink your podcast. I drink it up.
Dang.
Woo!
It's like you're him.
Yeah, I'm a mean oil tycoon.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.